Alright everybody, welcome to the channel. As always, it is great to see you. So Stoker here, and if you came to learn a little bit more about base plate compasses, you came to the right spot, so hang on tight.
Is this thing even on?
So of course there are a couple different types of compasses that are out there. You have US government issued Kamanga compasses. These are Lensatic compasses, and then of course you have some base plate compasses, and then you have little cheap button compasses, which I don't recommend you using at all. Now base plate compasses are not all the same. Some have mirrors and some don't. This particular one is just a straight up base plate compass, but it does have some features on it that I like, and I want to let you know a little bit more about them. This is the Brunton TruARC 10 base plate compass. So as we get going, if you want to click down in the description below or wait till some cards at the end, I'll help kind of launch you out to some different videos that may help deep dive you if you have more questions. So what is a compass? A compass is a precision instrument that enables you to determine magnetic north and degrees of variance, normally described as degrees or mils. Right? So on any base plate compass, there are a few things that every base plate compass is going to have, and then this particular one has some additional features on it as well. And I've had this one, I picked it up maybe 3-4 months ago. I've used it a few times out in the woods, and I think I'm fairly confident to give you my end state, my end result. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Do I recommend it? Do I not recommend it at the end of the video? All right, so each base plate compass that you're going to find, you're going to have a travel arrow. This particular one has it in black up here, and then in green kind of right there. You see that right there? See, it doesn't move, so it's always in line. It's like the fixed black index line, always going to be the same, right? And of course you do have your bezel ring, which is turning here with all your degrees on here. This particular one, I think it was supposed to click every 2 degrees. Was supposed to click, right? And I don't know if mine is defective or what. I did notice, you know, after I opened it up from the box, the bezel kind of popped out, and I had to pop it all back in together, and it works perfectly. I do have a couple of bubbles that are formed, but the compass works good. It just doesn't click. Really the impact of that is if I try to use it at night, I may not be able to hear the clicks. I may have to use some light, but I mean, no big deal to me that it doesn't click. This particular compass has grid protractors on it, different scales, right? And I'll get you some different angles here of what we're talking about, but that's kind of a handy feature and something that I particularly liked and wanted to see in a base plate compass, was having a built-in protractor. And well, I'll get this thing on a map here in a second, but the ability to be able to have a one-stop, one-shop tool that I don't need a map or a protractor and a compass. I can just use a compass that has a protractor built in. So I thought that was pretty awesome. All right, and then of course you have your orienteering arrow, which you see as the bezel ring turns red and black, right? Those two, that's your orienteering arrow. And then you have your magnetized arrow, which is always going to point towards magnetic north. Now, what is magnetic north? Is there more than one kind of north? Of course there is. You have grid north, true north, and magnetic north. Normally, grid north and true north are about the same. And of course your magnetic north, depending on where you're at, can be crazy different. You know, if you're along the isogonic line, which kind of runs down the center, just off center of the United States, it's nothing or next to nothing. You get a little bit further east or west, and you may have an easterly or westerly azimuth or bearing that may be pointing up towards the magnetic pole. And then, you know, up here in the Pacific Northwest, depending on where you're at, maybe 15, 19, 20, 23 degrees. And of course, the further north and west or east that you get from the magnetic pole, the greater it becomes. And that's one of the things that you have to take into consideration when you're using a compass and a map together and doing orienteering or land navigation, is you have to take this into consideration, because if you don't, you can end up in a totally wrong spot that you're looking for. And using the metric scale, just a little precursor here. So using the metric scale, if you move out a 10 degrees off your azimuth or direction or bearing, you're going to end up 100 meters every 1,000 meters that you go. So if you go 1,000 meters of travel but you're 10 degrees off, you're going to be 100 meters off. So you can imagine how much this can compound depending on how small of an object that you're trying to look for. Maybe you're just looking for a flag or a small ammo can or a box, you're doing some geocaching or something, or if you're trying to find a smaller terrain feature, it can really throw you off. So one of the coolest things about a base plate compass, and why I wanted to get my hands on another one, haven't used one in years, decades, is it enables you to preset it, so you don't ever have to do any math again. So you preset it, and then you set it, and you forget it, and all you have to do is just know what your grid azimuth is, or your grid direction is, and then you figure that out, and you keep reading the shit, and you start moving out. So I love that about this particular compass, about good quality base plate compasses. You can preset it. That's something that you can't do with the lensatic compass. Right, and so this Brunton base plate compass, you can kind of see it's a little thick, right? The material that they're using, and it's a couple pieces of plastic that's kind of wedged together. They're glued or whatever it is. I'm not a plastic manufacturer. I don't know how they do this, but it is nice because it's kind of thick and durable. I don't feel like it's gonna break. Like, I can drop this and it's not a big deal. So that's kind of a nice feature as well. I feel it has some durability to it as well. So I think this thing's gonna last quite a ways. So let's get this thing preset. We'll look at the declination diagram on the map for where we're at up here. I'll show you how to preset this particular one, and we'll just shoot an azimuth and we'll go for a walk real quick. How does that sound? Right, and so you can see that the GM angle is 17.5 degrees, man. That's quite a bit. So now we just need to take that into account. We can preset our compass. So I'll try to do everything I can to make sure that you can see exactly what's going on here, in case you have to pick one up to use it. But in order to preset this particular one, it's toolless, which I like because I don't need a tool. I don't have to worry about losing a tool. So all you have to do is just press right here. You just want to make sure that everything is lined up to 0. So you kind of press and then rotate around left or right, depending on if it's a easterly or westerly. So I'm going to rotate this till I have 17.5 degrees. That's at 10. That's about 15. And that's about 17.5 degrees there. So there's 0, and you can see that this arrow is pointing it almost to 17.5, maybe 18 degrees. All right, and so now that my compass is preset, I can just set everything and just forget it. I can use a grid azimuth that I can plot on the map, and I can just go. I don't have to worry about adding and subtracting or any other garbage. All right, so let's do that. Let's figure out where we're at, which I know where we're at, and we'll figure out some place to go, and we'll go take a walk and put this thing out in the woods. Right, so if you looked right here at where this T is, that right at the bottom of the T is pretty much exactly where we're at. And so I think we'll just move up here towards Eastman Hill. So it's gonna be, maybe 1,300 meters. So if I take my compass and I put it right on top of that T, with everything lined up perpendicular and parallel with my grid lines on the map, Eastman Hill is right at looks like maybe 35 degrees. All right, and then so when it comes to the distance, I'm actually just going to use the protractor on my compass here and to measure my distance. So I'll start right up here on the top of Eastman Hill, and so I can kind of see where the 1,000 is, just maybe 200 meters south of that road. So then I'll reset there, and then bring down, looking to the bottom of the T. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's going to be around 1,800 meters. Right, so none of that math was perfect. It wasn't absolute, and I know that going in. But what I'm trying to do from here is just trying to use my compass to go out and find Eastman Hill, which is at 35 degrees. Moving out about 27 times on my pace count, because my pace count is 65 paces. So we're going to move out quite a ways, and then turn around and then make our way back here. All right, so let's do this. Alright, so the compass is preset, and I'll show you how I'm going to keep this red in the shed from your perspective, well, from my perspective, so you can just see what I'm doing, and we'll start stepping it out. Alright, so starting with everything just set at 0, I'm going to rotate my bezel ring until I got 35 on my direction of travel arrow, and then I'm just going to make sure that when I look down that I have red in the shed here. Alright, I'm going to turn this camera around here in a second and show you we've made it. So that's great news. So, you know, the compass, it worked well moving out. Checked down to make sure, you know, we had red in the shed every 100 meters or so, and everything was looking pretty good. It did, it got a little thick moving through some of it, but that was alright. It wasn't too bad of an obstacle. But let's turn this thing around and we'll get up to the top of this thing. That may not have looked like much, but it's got the old heart rate pumping a little bit. This feels great. Yeah, feels good. What a beautiful, beautiful day to come out and mess with a compass. Whoo! Man, it feels good. I feel alive. I'm gonna sit here for a minute, and then we're gonna take it back to the car. So I'm gonna work on my reverse azimuth, get my pace count, should be able to pick up the car pretty easy. Moving back in this direction, if you remember, I do have that Eastgate Road, which is gonna kind of serve as a backstop. If I hit Eastgate Road and I happen to have been too far to the left or to the right of where my car is, Eastgate Road and then the Roy Cutoff Road is going to kind of serve as a solid landmark going back out, just like this hill was moving out here. I knew I was going to be able to find it. I know no matter what, if I move on and stay on my azimuth, I'm gonna find Eastgate Road and we'll be able to find the car from there. But I don't foresee any problems. So let's get to this. Let's get to stepping. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the content of the video. If you did, make sure you like it, leave some comments down below. Let me know what you thought about a couple things. One, about the video itself, and two, about the Baseplate Compass. Do you use one? Do you have one? Do you like it? You want to add it to your kit bag? Let's keep this conversation rolling. And as always, until then, we'll see you.